Hello, everybody. Welcome to another GameDay Squad Aussie Rules live stream. We're here today to preview the round that is about to be. That is round 17. And I'm joined by a familiar face and a good friend of mine at Bales, mate. How are you going? Are you ready to talk about the round and look through our squads?
Yeah, mate. G'day, everyone. G'day, viewers and everything. Looking forward to another round of footy. And how good is it? We've got 9 games of footy again this week. It feels like we've only had like 5 games, 6 games, 7 games. But no, it's good to have 9 games of footy. Not quite sure about the Friday doubleheader, but more games at the same time means more players scoring fantasy points for our squad. So let's crack into all things round 17.
Yeah, normally that means a little bit more dopamine, you're just seeing all the points fly in. Everything's happy unless you're on the other side of it and your players aren't performing.
Yeah, more stressful anger. So
yeah, exactly right. So what we're going to do in this show, we're going to do it a little differently. Normally we would go through the lineups and have a look at the big ins and outs. We're going to hold off on that one. We will come back and revisit it once they get dropped. Is it 2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 minutes till they get dropped. Yeah.
Oh, even you know what? I think we just keep this going and then kick it off. I thought it was at 30 at half a pass, but no. If we got 2 minutes, mate, we can get there. Are you excited for the game tonight? How much are we looking into it? In terms of our squad.
Got a few players. So I'm just looking here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players from tonight. So in the main squad. So plenty of fantasy action going around. Not too much salary on a few of them tonight, but got a couple of guys that got some salary. So it should be a good one. And then tomorrow night, Carlton Collingwood, probably not a huge amount, but then we get into the Giants West Coast, where we've got obviously a couple of Giants in our squad. So looking forward to that, and hopefully progressing in the Classic Cup again. Obviously, I'm still alive in both the AFL and the NRL Classic Cup.
Lovely.
So hoping to go through. If anyone out there's NRL fans and have got a Hopawade from the Manly Sea Eagles, I'm looking for 1 or 2 of those. Or if you've got a Harry Hayes, I'm looking for a few of them. So anyone hit me up if you've got any of those bronzes. I'm looking for a few wingers this week.
Gosh, the selfish plug in the Aussie Rules show. Goodness, Bales.
Oh, mate,
fair enough.
Mate, we got to try Discord, try this live streams, mate. Try it all. So.
Oh, that's funny though, mate. Good stuff. The cup will do that to you. Unfortunately, I'm not through in the rugby league, but in the Aussie Rules, I am. So I'm very excited to hopefully keep that momentum going. Hastings Hornets, if you do end up watching this at some point, mate, the absolute best of luck. It is unfortunate that we had to see each other so soon in this cup, but only one of us will continue after this round. And we'll see who comes out on top. So, yeah, best of luck. You'll get a sneak peek at what I'm going to be doing for the round. So we'll see if you can navigate better than I do and make it through. But for the game tonight, Bales, lots of movement, lots of outs, lots of ins. We were only on your show yesterday talking about the implications, maybe the opportunities that some players are going to get in terms of scoring. Who do you think it benefits the most when you look at all these outs? We've got Parker, Darling, Wardlaw, Fisher, McDonald on the North Melbourne side, and then Davidson, Karmas, and Harms as well for the Doggies. Who do you sort of gravitate towards listening to that?
Yeah, I think that the big one for me that's probably taken his stocks have gone up this week is probably Harry Sheezel. Originally, after a bit of a shoulder concern, a few of these midfielders in, I'm thought, okay, well, is this forward role going to stick? But the fact that they got beaten badly was one thing. His shoulder's fine, which shout to Drew Jones, a friend of GameDay Squad, obviously GOAT Fantasy. Love all his work, saying that his shoulder's fine. And then the fact that Wardlaw and Parker are out, there's just some midfield holes. Like Will Phillips comes in, he'll fill a little bit of a hole there, but he's been subbed out in a few games. Like Simpkin will go in for some, but you just got to imagine that Harry Sheezel is going to be in there for some CBAs. So I'm expecting him to see an uptick. He might even be in the first CBA. Like I'm thinking maybe it's an LDU, Sheezel and Powell at the first CBA with no Wardlaw, so and no Parker. So it'd be interesting.
You can say that as well, though. So
yeah, and I think that this is a bounce-back spot for both Tristan Cherry and Marcus Bontempelli. They're the ones that have struggled over the last month or so. But I think English is a decent opponent for Cherry. I expect him to go well. He went over 140 GameDay Squad points, I believe, in round 1 when they played. And the Bont, good race history against North, and he just hasn't been at the races the last month. And think he's only polled coaches' votes in one game in the past 8 weeks, which was against Richmond. So besides that, he's not informed. So hopefully bounce back from Bont and Cherry and hopefully have a good night at fantasy.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Look, I will say Auntie Booger is here. Welcome, regular. She asked me on the Discord before. I'm a little confused what to do with the rucks, Bales. I've sort of made my decision where I'm going. You'll see it a little later, but I think I'm sort of going against the grain a little bit with my ruck pairing for this round. So I'm interested when we get there. We'll talk about it and answer Auntie Booger's questions of which rucks should you be starting, because we spoke about some of the matchups. Like there's no real matchup that sort of grabs you straight away and goes, yes, that's an absolute in terms of starting. But there's definitely going to be opportunity for players to score big. But let's quickly fly through. The news has dropped, Bales. Let's go through the other games here, and then we can get into what our squads are looking like and some rankings. So Carlton and the Pies, Carroll, Francis, Pitternet, lots of outs though. Wow, for Carlton. They're going to be very Chincotta out, Young, Wilson, Silvani, Sard, Boyd. The big one there, Bales. Chincotta being out.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I honestly missed that one. I'm looking through the teams now. I completely skipped over it. So, Nick Dacos.
That's exactly my point. Is I initially and yesterday we sort of both agreed that with the tag being there, it's probably not worth it with a lot of other good matchups. But with him out, is there someone else that's going to be able to tag, or does that just open the door wide open for Nick Dacos to go crazy for one of the first games on the Friday?
You'd think that George Hewitt's got the job right, but is George Hewitt going to be able to stay with Nick Dacos? I think this week's a little bit different because there's so many good options that have got good matchups. So I even think without the tag, I think they've probably got other guys ahead of him, but it certainly opens the door for a possibility. Like you've got guys, you got Dawson, you got Caldwell, you got Anderson, Goulden, Green, Bont. Like there's so many good options this week,
Chuck
and then along with Nick Dacos
and Matty Rowell.
Yep, all these got Matty Rowell. Obviously,
Rosen,
you flagged that on the show last night. There's just so many options that you could go for this week. It sort of makes it Rosie, another one that's been pretty consistent. Josh Dunkley found a bit of form. It's quite tricky to fit him in, even still with a good matchup. But Nick Dacos is Nick Dacos, so we might have to squeeze him in.
I definitely think that changes things for me. But yeah, Maynard, Tommy Mitchell, Will Parker in, side bottom out there for the Pies. Let's go to West Coast and the Giants. And mate, you said it. There were rumors of it. We've just had it confirmed. Jesse Hogan out. Now, this was going to be one of my big plays for the round. He kicked 9 goals against West Coast last time they matched up. Lockie Whitfield also out with that concussion. Madden as well. Kieran Briggs comes back in. And then, not too much on the West Coast side there. Let's go to the next one. Dons, Gold Coast. Jordan Ridley comes back in. Goldstein in to deal with Witts. And then Sam Durham as well. But with that being said, Witts is out.
I was going to say that, yeah. You're like, he's got to deal with it, but Witts is out. So there you go.
That is very interesting then, that matchup. I know there was a Corey, a good fella, loves your show, loves GameDay Squad. He was talking about a Witts pod play.
Yeah.
No more, unfortunately, Corey. If you're watching this, mate, get him out.
Yeah, definitely.
Looks like Geelong haven't same lineup. Maybe they haven't got it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, unchanged.
No movement there. But then Sam Layla, Sims, and Rioli in. Green, Tommy Lynch with the suspension. Leifu out. Nearly done here. The Lions versus Port. Gardner, Archie in. McLaughlin, Revel out. Lukosius in for Port. Ollie Wines, name you haven't heard too often this season.
Yeah.
Comes in. Liddy, Logan Evans out for Port.
Tell you what, Liddy is very stiff to get dropped. I'll tell you right now, Port won last week. He's been pretty good mid-season draftee, and they've dropped him. Yeah. It's quite surprising. But anyway.
The Ken effect, eh?
Yep.
Let's go to Saints and Hawthorn. We've got Bradley Hill in, pretty big in there. And then Sicily and Warple in for Hawthorn. Weddle, though, out. He's been a pretty tidy player for them all year long. And the Sunday games, Tom McCartan in, Joel Almardi in, Hamling, Riley Bice, and Peter Laddams in. Not a name I like to read for my Bloods. Aaron Francis, Dane Rampy being out. Alex Pearce comes in for Freo. Jaeger O'Meara, Aish, and Sharp. Nat Fife is injured, unfortunately, for Freo, so that's out. And finishing with your boys, mate. Zach Taylor, Bond, Burgess in, but big movement on the Melbourne side. They've brought Lever back in after giving him the flick for the past round. Van Rooyen comes in, Billings, McDonald, and Jed Adams, and Petty and Howe's out there. So that's our round. Not too many things. I guess the big conversations, the day cost now with Chincotta being out, and then also Wits. If you were going to play that pod, you're going to have to sort of look elsewhere for that because, not going to be starting.
Yep.
Alrighty, mate. Let's get into some rankings. This is what the squads are made of. Now, what I'm going to be rolling at this week, this is going to be my classic, and then I'm going to show you some of my bench options. But I'm going the gold on Wanganeen Millera just because he's the safest player. If I still did the lock thing, he's a lock, and Maxi Holmes in what's going to be a very tasty matchup against the Tigers. Dane Zorko is just Zorko. I can't just never have a reason to fade him because if you ever do, he's just going to play too well and make you pay. Bailey Dale, Clark, Nick Martin. You spoke and touched on Nick Martin last night. You're thinking he's in for a big one against the Suns, hey?
Yeah, it's a good matchup. So I think he has a good one. I guess I'm just tossing up. Do I chuck the salary on Nick Martin this week, or do I end up going for maybe a different player in? So Nick Martin's got the ceiling. Gold Coast, good matchup. So I do like him there. I guess the interesting one there is Jordan Clark. You're the Sydney man. Do you think that James Jordan goes to a Clark and maybe Rowbottom goes to a Sarong, because Jordan Clark's been in some pretty good form and has put up some big scores of late?
Yeah, I am a little nervous, but I'm just looking at sort of the role that he's playing. I'm hoping it does make sense for that to happen, but some weeks it's not as effective, sort of that role. Other weeks it's really effective what he's doing. It's a bit of a coin flip, so could be something I reconsider. But for now, I just think with our play style and how they're going to want to play, Clark's going to still get a lot of opportunity to get some easy touches and pill through kick-ins and just the way he plays. So I'm going to back him in for now and just have a look at the form and trust that he should still be able to put up a pretty solid performance for me. Like, what if I get his past couple of games? 148 last round, 160 the round before, 119, 146. Like, there's been a clear shift in sort of their strategy, what they're trying to do at Freo, and he's a big part of that. So whether he does get attention or not, they're going to look to get it in his hands and try to free him up as best as they can.
Yep, I like it.
Sinclair's really hard to fade though, mate. Number 8, this is one of the first times in a very long time, other than them being off, that I have faded him. I don't feel great about it, but I just don't love the form that he's been in. And I'm having a look at some of these other defenders, and they're just quite the opposite in terms of that. We've seen 97 and 81 as his past 2 games. The thing that sort of concerns me is every game before that for the past 5 were just amazing. He was on this streak of just playing unbelievable footy in terms of fantasy. So he's just edged out at 8, 9 with Noble, and then Sheasel at 10. I'm not certain that Sheasel going into the midfield is going to have the impact that we all think it's going to have. I actually think he plays his best footy off the half back in terms of fantasy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I am going to steer clear because I think a lot of other coaches will probably beg to differ and say, hey, Sheasel's going to be a lock with CBAs and everything. I'm not fully sold on it. And I'd rather trust in some of these other defenders I've got in than sort of take a flyer against a red-hot midfield with the Doggies, one of the best midfields in the could say the best midfield in the competition. They're deep, they're physical, and I just can't see him impacting the game like others may think.
Yeah, so I'm probably the other way. I actually think that, so obviously agreed, half back role for Sheasel's the one which we want, right? But in the 3 games before that, where he was playing that sort of high half forward bit of midfield role, he scored in GameDay Squad 131, 151, and 137. And they come up against a Dogs team where the ball's going to be back in defence. I could just see him pushing up a lot more in the midfield, getting those +6s at half back.
Yep.
And he's got a ceiling like Sinclair Noble. Sheasel's got a high ceiling. I think he's got a high ceiling Ash, but Ash is obviously, you're playing Ash ahead of Sheasel this week. But yeah, I think Sheasel, I've got him ahead of Jordan Clark this week. So obviously the defense though is tough, right? Like, I even think I played him last week, but his teammate Colby McKirch is also a pretty nice pod with that half-back role if you want to 100%. Play him. So I do like him, but I've currently got Sheasel in my squad, which obviously we'll be able to get to a little bit after. But Sheasel's made his way in there just with the few of the outs they've got this week.
Fair enough. And look, I know you mentioned Ash. Ash is sitting there at number 7, but I wouldn't be shy of getting him in the squad. Lockie Whitfield had 166 fantasy points when they played against West Coast last time, and I think Ash had about 115. Ash is literally just going to step into the Whitfield role. You can assume that a lot of that pill that was going to Whitfield in that first meeting is now going to go to Ash, and they're going to look for him to be that main ball distributor. So I think he's in for a big game. Got a big ceiling and a pretty good floor and one of the better matchups in fantasy. But there we have it. That's my defenders. Let's move it on, Bales. Let's get into some midfielders, which I found it pretty tough to pick some of the midfielders. There's some elite midfielders for me sitting on the bench, but I've gone with Goulden Dawson as my 1 and 2. My boy
talk about. I'm looking there at the two boys with the salary on them and at M1, M2. If there's ever some Tom bias at who's gone M1, M2, I'd see the fist pumping in the air from Tom. His boy's back. Errol's back. You got it. I think he's one that you'd be pretty hard pressed to leave out. Would you agree?
100%. And I love the matchup that Dawson has as well. Like, he's versing Melbourne. He's going to be in the last game. Like, yeah, he might get a little bit of attention, but we've seen that he's not going to get a hard tag, and Dawson can fight through that. He's a physical specimen himself, and he still can perform because he's just so diverse and athletic. So I'm not too concerned about that at all. I think he's still going to play great, and he's just Jordan Dawson. It's very hard to not get him in the squad. I think after that, there's a lot of tough decisions to be made. I'm going Rosie, Noah, Caldwell, and Tommy Green. You can sort of, Noah and Tommy Green, I think, have the best matchups, and Rosie and Caldwell for me are just real safe, really good defenders. So that's sort of how it went, but I don't feel great about this, mate. But with the Dacos news, I'm actually not sure who would come out if I was to put Nick Dacos into the squad.
Yeah,
Are you considering it?
I'm considering it, but again, like looking at my squad here, right? So the 6 I've got in my squad, which I've got him in pretty much all squads, is Jordan Dawson against Melbourne. You just mentioned him, great matchup. I do think some will go with him, but we've seen that Dawson goes forward, like he's gonna still do his work. Jai Caldwell, you know me, been banging the drum for ages about Jai Caldwell. He's got to be in there. Errol back in form. I think he's got to be in there as well. Tom Green's got the Eagles. I see him on the bench there for you. He's someone I'm really keen on starting. Noah Anderson's got the Bombers, really good matchup. And then I've got Bont, who against North, I expect to bounce back. So it's like Carlton's a difficult matchup, but they've been better over the last few weeks. It's like, where do you put Dacos in? I'll probably chuck Dacos in a squad or two, maybe in the starter comp, but with Contender and Classic, which is like where I'm obviously me and you are top 3, so which is quite nice in Contender, and then Classic with the Classic Cup. It just, I find it hard to fit him in. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
For sure. So you're thinking either way, you're just looking at other matchups and they're a little too tasty to be able to work him into the squad, and it's fair enough.
Yeah, that's currently where I'm leaning. I just don't know who I'd be bringing out. To
exactly right. And the same issue I'm having at the moment. I was telling you all last night that I want to try to get Matt Rowell in my squad, but I just cannot bring myself to bringing any of the players that you see on screen out to get him in. Matty Rowell is in awesome form. And if you're not sold on one of the top 6 that I have there, or maybe it's a little different, I would seriously consider putting Matt Rowell in. And what's a really great matchup they have this week. He's against the Dons. He's been playing awesome footy, safe as, and since signing his contract as well, we haven't seen that dip in performance that sometimes you'll see. He's just ticking along, doing his thing. I've got Bont there at 8. It's just a form thing. I know I feel like it multiple times this year I've said this is the Bont bounce back, and I just haven't quite seen it. I'm not sold that there's a bounce back, and I want to sort of trust in some of these other players who have been delivering on a round-to-round basis rather than taking a flyer on Bont. But the thing is, I'll be watching the game closely, and it could really hurt tonight if he or any of the Dogs midfielders play really well.
Yeah, exactly. I've got Bont. I'm just expecting a bounce back. He's been in poor form, and he would know that. I know Dogs are getting it done, but they're going into a finals campaign. You would imagine the Dogs, and they're going to want their best player up and about. So I think he's got to find some form at some point, and I think that tonight could be the start of a bit of a run that Bont could make.
If he kicks a goal or two early, I think it's trouble for anyone who hasn't got Bontempelli into their squad, because he has that ability. This is a really good question though, Auntie Booger. Ed Richards, Bales, I know it's something that you're big on, is when someone gets tagged and someone has a bad game, you're usually pretty big on the bounce back the week after. We saw that last week with Ed Richards was really held to. It was a great job that the Swans did, but have you got him in your squad? Are you going this bounce back, or are you going to look at the captain in Bontempelli instead?
It's a pod. It's a good pod, but I'm going Bont still.
Okay.
I know that Ed Richards is a good option, but he doesn't have the same ceiling. He's probably got the higher floor, but which is crazy that we're saying that someone's got a higher floor on Bont when Bont was someone that we just thought was an 85, 90 plus every single week at worst, but more that consistent 115 to 125 in GameDay Squad. But yeah, I just don't think Ed Richards got enough for Cern to hurt you if you don't play him. Whereas Bont, you mentioned it there, if he kicks a goal or two early, he could put up a 140, 150 GameDay Squad point performance, and you're kicking yourself you didn't play him. So I'm still Bont for the ceiling, but if you want to go Ed Richards, if you've got multiple squads, like if you aren't doing a 10, you've got 4 squads, maybe chuck Ed Richards in a squad or 2 if you want a bit of a pod. But I think in your main ones, I'm still Bont ahead of Ed Richards this week.
Fair enough. And ST here saying gold Bont for me to the moon. So he agrees.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, Will Phillips will probably come in and do a job on someone. He would match up much better on Ed Richards than Bont. So that's the other flag that Phillips maybe goes to an Ed Richards tonight.
Alrighty, mate. Auntie Booger asked about the rucks before. Silver Pigeon came in, said, hey, lads, stuck with rucks this round. We'll need your rankings to help me out. But here we are. My rankings. This is how I'm doing it, Bales. I would love to get your input after because I know I'm taking a big swing here, and I'm taking a big swing with Brodie Grundy. Arguably the most informed player in all of GameDay Squad. If you just have a look at some of his past games, he's almost becoming matchup proof. I think this round in particular, people might shy away from playing him against Freo. Freo does have Darcy. Luke Jackson's playing some of his best footy, and the past couple of rounds have been pretty rough for any rucks that have matched up against the Freo Dockers. But I think Brodie Grundy's going to be a little too good, and with the form he's in, that it shouldn't matter. Let me just read out his past couple of scores, and you'll just see why I've got a gold on him. But let's go with 157, 136, 156, 141, 147. This is all in back-to-back games. That's pretty absurd.
Were you talking about Brodie Grundy, or were you talking about prime Dane Swan or something there? Because that sounds like Dane Swan.
It is ridiculous how good he's playing.
He is the ruck pick, right? He averaged well over 120 fantasy points back-to-back years, and that probably would have been 130 points in back-to-back years for GameDay Squad as a ruckman. And he's doing exactly that at the moment. I guess my question is that Peter Laddam's coming in probably takes that maybe a slight bit of that ceiling away. Not a lot, because I still think Grundy's the clear number one. But with Cherry up against Tim English tonight, I've probably got Marshall and Cherry this week just ahead of Grundy, just because Grundy's up against the Freo rucks. Is that you still probably going towards Grundy, though? Or do you think that Laddam's in and Cherry against English is maybe, does that throw a bit of a spanner? What do you think?
Yeah, look, it definitely will impact Grundy to a certain degree, but I can't imagine that the Swans are going to want to roll with bulk minutes with Laddams in the middle, playing that ruck role. Like that's what he's going to be brought into the team to do. Don't get me wrong. So yes, there's going to be times where Brodie Grundy comes out, but it could almost serve as a positive where, you know, they know Freo's going to be rolling 2 rucks through. So I think they're going to try to keep Brodie Grundy more energized and engaged for the entire game, rather than having him slog it out as that solo ruck, because, yeah, he's going to have a big battle on his hands. He's got 2 real different types of rucks that'll be in front of him. He's got Sean Darcy, a more physical, big-bodied ruck, and then he's got the unicorn in Jackson that'll roll through as well. So I think to sort of counteract having to deal with Jackson, Laddams will give Grundy a bit of rest in the legs so he can keep up throughout the game.
Yeah.
But I don't see it impacting as much because I'm hoping it's more impactful minutes rather than it being anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think there's 3 rucks you're probably deciding between this week, and whichever way you go, hopefully it works out.
Rowan Marshall, though, is my ruck number 2. And you spoke about him last night. You love what he's doing. He's going up against the Hawks, and his past couple of games, he just seems to be back in form. 147, 126, 142. And in all of those games, he had 15-plus kicks. Bales, I don't know if you remember it off the top of your head, but you were talking last night about the numbers that he had the last time that he versed the Hawks.
Yeah. So
Do you
there
remember
was,
roughly what it was?
yeah, so these last four actually, because I did my captain's video on earlier today for people that play the other formats and that. So I looked at Marshall's last four against Hawthorn. So last year, 28 disposals with 24 kicks, 3 marks, 11 tackles, 35 hitouts for 164. So that'd be about 188, probably about 190 game day squad points because he probably gave a free kick or two away because that's what he tends to do every game. So that's
Wow.
obviously a monster performance. The year before, lower game had, 22 touches. He would have had about 125, 127, maybe about 130 game day squad points. Year before that, I think it was a lower one because I think he might have been sharing the ruck potentially there. He scored about 110 game day squad points. But before that, had another 160 plus point performance, had another 30 touches, 21 kicks, 9 marks, 7 tackles, 35 hitouts. So that would have been 184, maybe 186, 187 game day squad points. So if you're telling
Absurd.
me that a
Yeah.
ruck in against the same opponent's gone over 180 points in game day squad twice in his last four, I want a bit of that, and I want a bit of salary on that. And the fact that Hawthorn are also a positive matchup over the last 5 weeks. I know Cherry was a bit lower, but I do think Marshall's in some good form. As you mentioned, his last few have been good. So I'm pretty keen on Marshall this week. And we know how good a fantasy player he is. He's a gun.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Look, loving the points, and Cherry's my number 3. If you're not sold on Grundy, probably where you're going to go. You're probably going to go the Big X and Marshall. Gorn in this round in particular, I've got him at 4. It's really hard as he's one of the best performers over the entire year. But just with the other matchups and situations, I think you'd rather take a bit of a flyer on Marshall, Cherry, or Grundy than to go with Gorn, who has one of the harder matchups for rucks in the competition. But let's move it on. Let's get into some forwards. There's going to be a theme here with forwards. We spoke about it. How many Geelong forwards are too many, Bales? For me, I think the perfect number's 3. I'm going to go with Bailey Smith at 1, Myers being my number 4 ranked, and Jeremy Cameron being there at number 6. He's not a player I have in all the time, Jezza, but I think he could be in for a day, just scoring goals, doing his thing. How many's too many for you, Bales? That's the question.
I think if you're going more than 4, I wonder who that 5th guy is. But I think you could definitely play Baz, Myers, Cameron, and your number 10 there in Sean Manor. I think the fact that we've got... So Matt Kennedy's a lock every week. I think we've got to have him there, obviously. I think Jackson, the role that he's playing at the moment, I think he's got to be in there as well. And Jack McRae's got a main CBA role. He's got to be there. And Sam Darcy's up against North tonight, and we saw what Gunston did the week before. I think Darcy's in for a big night. So it's like Manor's the one that's probably tricky to fit in, right? So it sort of comes down to the other 3. But I think you've got to have at least 2 of them. It's got to be Baz and then at least one of Myers or Cameron. I think Myers is one you probably got to have there. It just depends if you want Jezza, but I think he's got to be there as well. So I think 3, as you say, is the good number there.
I guess the big thing in my rankings here is I don't have Cozzy Pickett, who's probably a main feature in a lot of people's squads, just because he's versing your boys in the Crows, and you guys do pretty well. He's going to play at that mid and forward role, but you've got good players all around the ground. I think you are going to impact or limit his impact on the game on Sunday afternoon. And then Rankin as well. I spoke about sort of that role change and form change that he's had at the start of the year. It was no question. So far, for the past couple of rounds, I just can't bring myself to getting Rankin in the squad when we have players like Sam Darcy who could kick 7 tonight. Seriously,
yeah, exactly.
There's
like
a
he could be in for an absolute monster like Sam Darcy. So I think he's just got to be in there, right? You're looking for the forwards. If you get an 80 from one of them, it's probably fine because there's not many forwards putting up massive scores, but you want access to those guys that can go 120, 130 points in game day squad. And Sam Darcy's literally that exact guy. So I think he's a good play this week.
Mate, I'm loving it. What I'm going to do is I'll stop sharing, Bales. If you want to pull up your squad, show all the people what you're going to be rolling with this round for Classic. You said you're in the Classic Cup.
Yep.
Seasonal on the line as well. How's it looking for the Bales Nails?
I'm just pulling it up on the website now because I was going to send you the photo, but I've been making change. People are probably thinking, oh, he's looking down his phone a bit. I've been making changes as we've been speaking. So that right says where my head's at. Mainly the salary has been where the main change have been. So if I share that now, that should come through onto the screen now. Is that showing up
Should
now.
be coming. 1, 2, 3. Here it is.
Bang. So, yeah, there we go. So, little bit of salary. This is obviously my classic team, obviously in the Classic Cup. So, got Nasiah, Zorko, Ash, Dale, and Sheasel there. Put the salary on top of Martin and Holmes. I'm a bit nervous. I haven't put a bit of salary on top of Nasiah there, but I've got a few other guys that I think could go pretty big this week. So I've gone for Martin and Holmes there. Got Dawson, put the salary on Caldwell there. Goulden, Tom Green got some salary on him with that matchup. Anderson and Bont with Marshall and Cherry got the salary on top of those two this week with their matchups. And then the most salary I think's got to go on Baz this week. I think that with him up against Richmond, it's got to be there. Then Kennedy, McRae, Jackson, Myers, Darcy, and Jeremy Cameron. So probably the change I made this week is I normally do for 5 players with platinum on top of them. But with the fact that there's so many good matchups this week, I probably want to spread my salary a little bit more this week. So gone for a lot of golds there. So it almost feels like a contender side. And my contender's got a lot of silvers in that this week. So it's an interesting week for GameDay Squad with that. But yeah, the only change I guess I could make is, do I maybe shift a bit of that salary maybe off of Tom Green, and do I put it on Nasiah, because Nasiah's obviously been killing it at the moment. So that's probably my one question this week. But that is how I'm currently rolling this week ahead of Classic Cup for, is it round 3 we're going into, or round 4? Round 3?
Round 3. This will be the third
Round
matchup for everyone.
So
yes.
Hopefully go through in that one. And hopefully in the rugby league as well. That'd be nice to go through in multiple. And yeah, keep going.
Love it, mate. Loving it. I'll pull up quickly my window here, just show you who I'm rolling with in contender. I do a little bit different. I did have Nick Dacos in here. I was going to take the risk with the Chincotta tag. A little better now that he's not in there. I've got my salary cap on Holmes, Miller. I've gone Marshall for this one rather than Grundy, because I do, as I mentioned, like to split it up a little bit. Got to get the salary on Smith, and I've got Dawson with the silver and Dacos with the silver in here. So
that's your contender team, isn't it?
Correct. And
yes,
the Classic is what you saw throughout my ranking. So this is how I'm rolling for Classic, but you sort of have seen this develop as the show has gone on.
Yeah, exactly.
But there we have it. Can't wait for this round. It's good to have a lot of our premium defenders back, Bales. Last week was a little, had to play around a little bit, dig a little deeper than we normally would have to for the defense. But yes, the likes of Martin, Zorko, Ash, Whitfield, if he was playing, but unfortunately he's not. Holmes, they're all back.
Yeah, it was good. So we can fill those out, and they've got some good matchups as well. So yeah, looking forward to hopefully some big scores from a few of those guys.
Yes, that is it. Well, the best of luck to everyone. Anyone who's in the Classic Cup, make sure you're getting your squads ready. It's going to be good. Hopefully you can make it through. I know Bales is hoping. I'm definitely hoping. But I've got a very good opponent this round. So if you work here live, thanks so much for tuning in. We'd always appreciate the support you show, coming in, commenting. Yeah, we do love all of that. But Bales, before we wrap it up and let everyone go, where can everyone find you on all the amazing stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, so you can find me at Bales DT on X, and you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans on X and Fantasy Fanatics YouTube channel as well. So always love coming on and chatting some GameDay Squad ahead of my watch long that I normally do on the Thursday night. So if anyone wants to continue some GameDay Squad chat or continue some just general footy chat, then head over to the watch long. Probably start there in 25, 30 minutes time. So looking forward to getting that done. And if you want to check out our YouTube and stuff like that, then feel free. And also, if you haven't signed up to GameDay Squad, if you are tuning in to this stream and haven't gone to GameDay Squad, make sure you do sign up, gamedaysquad.com.au. Use the code BALESDT at your sign up, and you get 3 9-player common packs, which, Tom, I know that's always good to open a few packs, but especially when you can get the higher rarities. You get silvers and golds, and maybe you might be lucky and get a platinum diamond or even a red legend, which I've not been lucky enough to pack one across any of the sports on GameDay Squad yet. So hopefully at some point soon. But use a code and jump in the fun, because it is free to play, which is fantastic.
Love your work. Before we do go, I've got a couple comments. A familiar face around here has joined. It is Monk, otherwise known as the Monk Man. He was eliminated last round. Unfortunately, we met the coach who eliminated you. He said, "Classic Cup." What ruffled tears. I'm sorry, Monk Man. You know what you do have on everyone is you have the seasonal rank. So I wouldn't get too upset. You're right in the mix there at the top. it is getting quite close, and Cowler's just falling further and further, and still is nowhere to be seen on the show bales.
Yeah.
I
feel like anytime Cal's not on the show, you feel like, well, how can I jab him? How can I get him? And it's right there. Where is he?
Where is he? Where is he? He's gone missing. He had a great start, but he has not been able to collect himself since. But as I was saying, the best of luck, everyone. Reach out on the Discord if you're doing any extra help, but enjoy your weekends, and we'll catch you next week, same time and the same place.